Hi everyone. Today I am joined by Raewyn Guerrero, who is a functional medicine gut specialist, and I'm Jacqueline Harvey from CCH Live. So I'd like to talk to Raewyn. For those of you that don't know about functional medicine, would you like to explain a bit to our listeners what functional medicine is?
Sure. Thank you, Jacqueline, for having me today. So for those who are not familiar with the concept of functional medicine, it is essentially looking at the root cause of things like, your chronic health conditions, the 21st century chronic health conditions like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer, your standard Western health conditions, but it also looks deeper into even things like mental health conditions, because those can be driven by a combination of genetics as well as certain lifestyle factors, as well as your diet. So my whole interest in functional medicine arose because of, one, I had a lot of family issues. That whole gamut of Western medicine, Western chronic health conditions, anxiety, type 2 diabetes, dementia, heart disease, cancer, you name it, my whole family has it. We're like a walking statistic, and it made me really it made me really aware of the importance of health and well-being when I was growing up. And then, of course, I ended up in London working in banking and developed a lot of my own health conditions. And functional medicine was the thing that brought me back to life. And I see that, when I work with other people who are in, the corporate world and who are kind of like on that conveyor belt of just going from back-to-back meetings and in a way that's not necessarily very sustainable and on the edge of burnout, I can see that it can add so much value and bring them back to like optimal health. So I'm really motivated to help people like really look deeper into what's going on with their health.
Okay, so for our listeners, what would be the difference between functional medicine and allopathic medicine? Because we know through my experience and my clients' experience of functional medicine, there's a very different experience. You go a lot deeper into testing and looking at some of these issues in a more holistic way. So can you explain like the main differences? Can you sum up the main differences between the two?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, traditional medicine looks at putting a band-aid on symptoms. So, you've got a headache, then we treat only the head, right? You've got toothache, you only look at the tooth. You're not looking at the entire system, which is what functional medicine looks at. We look at how all these different systems in your body are functioning and how to get them, because they all play a part. And I like using car analogies a lot, right? So you want to basically make sure that everything in the car is working really, really well, because you're not only going to focus on the tires. You might look at the axle, you're going to look at the engine, you're going to look at the oil. So it's the same thing with a body. A body functions in the same way. And unfortunately, traditional medicine has gotten to a point where it has a very reductionist approach. It's like, okay, take a pill to match this symptom. And very often, unfortunately, those pills, those pharmaceuticals tend to have really nasty side effects. And when I first started doing this 3 years ago, I was in banking, like I said, and I moved out of that and into doing this. I had calculated what the cost of just taking one pharmaceutical medication was going to look like for someone from the age of 40, let's say, to the end of their lives, or at least to 20.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it was over like £30,000,
Yes.
So it was ridiculously expensive. Ill health is ridiculously expensive. Pharmaceuticals, ridiculously expensive. And functional medicine looks at how you can optimize the body through diet, rest, exercise, stress management, and supplements once you leverage the data from the lab work. So the lab work is sort of like the key. It's like we say test, don't guess. That's our whole sort of ethos. Different lab work to what you would find at like a Western doctor. We will look at genetics. We will look at your gut health, your stool. Look at your hormones and how those function. And we look at ranges that are wider, because they tend to look at only when something is full blown so that they can match it to either a pill or surgery. That's generally the Western kind of.
So it's acute. They wait for for symptoms to become acute before they really they're not really a preventative system, shall we say? Because nothing happens to the body literally overnight. It tends to build up over time, does it not? Whereas I've noticed that allopathic medicine tends to deal with the maximum acute symptoms, and they've got either a pill or surgery for that. But all the time when you're feeling quite not well and developing, and they're saying to you, no, there's nothing wrong with your lab work. I found that with functional medicine, that the lab work might actually prove that this person is suboptimum on either organ function, or they have chronic deficiencies going on, which allopathic medicine won't actually recognize necessarily. Would that be correct to say that?
Absolutely. That's exactly what's going on. I call it subclinical. So they're looking for full non-clinical, because their ranges are like this big. Our ranges are so wide. And we look at different things too, because I remember when I had like all my gut stuff going on, I kept going. I think I must have gone through like several, I saw a gastroenterologist. I went through the whole, that whole, I call it medical merry-go-round. It's a medical merry-go-round, because they just have you from different specialist to specialist to figure out what's wrong with you.
Absolutely.
They were like, we can't find anything. There's nothing wrong with your gut. Like everything. I remember the lady said, the gastroenterologist, she said, well, structurally, everything's fine. And I was like, okay, structurally, everything's fine. So that means no polyps, no growths, no whatever. But I had
cancer.
Functionally, I wasn't fine, right? And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. And recently I've had quite a few calls with, actually I had 1 or 2 doctors that have come my way who've been struggling, who've been like suffering from chronic fatigue, burnout.
Yes, absolutely.
When they get on the calls with me, they're like, oh, but all my lab work is fine. I was like, what kind of lab work have you been doing?
Yes, that's right. Because we know the lab work is different, vastly different, because what you're looking for, against you have these markers of what is possible for the optimum range within the human function of that organ. And then if you're like on the optimum or below or over, something's overworking, you can monitor that quite easily, can't you? You can see clearly what is going on. What I found also fascinating about functional medicine was that it connects the dots. It's very difficult for it to be for them to be dealing with one problem, because they're looking in the gut, they're looking in the bloods, they're looking in the urine, they're looking everywhere. And so you tend to find loads of results will affirm whether something is dysfunctional. It's not one result you're looking for to affirm dysfunctionality. It's several. It will come at you in different ways. I had an experience, which is very topical at the moment, earlier this year, which we talked about. And one of the major things where on a functional test, it was saying, my immune system was 100% dysfunctional. And you say, well, how is that possible? And they said, well, the test was showing, lack of zinc needed, selenium needed, vitamin D, the major one, especially for someone with my dark skin. Of course, it was dysfunction. There wasn't enough vitamin D in my system, but my doctor was telling me, oh, your vitamin D is fine, it's fine. It's not even low, So, I dealt with that with a functional doctor, and I felt a million times better once I baked myself in the sun and took the supplements, So, which the doctor was just like, everything was fine. They wouldn't even look at micronutrients and supplementation at all to support, and calcium also. I was like very low. I needed calcium.
That's really interesting, because vitamin D is very topical right now because of what's going on.
Absolutely.
And it is such an immune protectant. It's hugely protectant, and hormonally, it's actually not a vitamin. It is a hormone.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people realize that. And it's responsible for helping you with your production of estrogen and progesterone and like sex hormones. So if you're very low in vitamin D, and this is what I see with clients who have thyroid issues and have mood imbalances and can't sleep, real problems with vitamin D. Like that's just a thing that is missing, or it's very, very deficient. And people with dark skin, I grew up in the Caribbean. You've got Caribbean roots as well.
Yes.
When we move to countries where we don't get the light and the sunlight that we are accustomed to, that our bodies have been genetically coded to expect, right? Or expect, sorry. Then it becomes really, really hard for us. Our immunity goes down. There were all this talk about, the BAME community is suffering the most from COVID. I'm like, well, It makes sense. They're not getting the vitamin D that they need. Their immune system isn't working the way that it should. So now I don't want everyone running out, by the way, and just picking up any old bottle of vitamin D. Like that's
absolutely. It's a whole different ball game out there when it comes to vitamin D3. Really, we need sunlight. But this country,
best source of it, but you can also get it from eggs. Like, and I know there's this eggs have been demonized because of cholesterol and all that.
Yes, that's a whole different discussion.
That's from the 1980s playbook. Eggs do not increase your cholesterol, right?
That's right. That's another myth that we have to
There's so many of these sort of like these myths that are perpetuated via the mainstream media, and it frustrates me, because when people come to me with some of their notions of like, well, I eat really healthy, I know I'm healthy, I'm like, well, if you were, you wouldn't be experiencing some of these problems, would you? And if you were absorbing, and so when you talked about, how I'm a gut specialist, so it's great if you're eating well, but if you are not absorbing your nutrients, if you're not eliminating effectively, all these things, so assimilation, elimination, these are two big factors when it comes to eating well. And if you tend to get bloated after you eat, or you get tired after you eat,
that's right.
These are signs that your body's not functioning optimally.
Yes.
If you're breaking out in rashes, like all that, your skin is telling you a lot of stuff that's going on with you.
Absolutely.
Your skin, your mood, if you get headaches. Like I had one lady who came to me specifically to deal with the fact that she had joint pain, right? Her husband had been on a 90-day program with me, and that's how I work. We don't ever do single appointments. We do 90 days. We start with lab work, and then we basically coach you through to success. We tell you to dress for success. So rest, exercise, stress management, and smart supplementation. And he had lost a ton of weight. Like he came because he was dealing with stress. He was a banker, working really hard, long hours, had a lot of issues with binge eating. And she saw that in the space of like 4 weeks, like he was on a 90-day program, 4 weeks, he completely like cut out sugar, had no desire for it anymore. The supplements were helping balance his blood sugar. I was teaching him how to eat. And she's like, okay, I need this because I have joint pain, and they told me that I potentially have rheumatoid arthritis. I want to get this checked out. We started working with her. She said within like 2 weeks, she got her period. And for the first time, she said in years, like 15, 20 years, she had no migraines, no soreness of her boobs or her back. And
no inflammation.
Exactly. She was just able to function normally. She didn't even know. She's like, normally I get like the worst 5-day migraine. I have to lie in a dark room. I can't hang out with my children. She's like, she said, it's absolutely remarkable that just like 2 weeks later, like I'm experiencing, just like you said, we removed some of those inflammatory triggers, and she had energy again. She was able to hang out with her kids, and she and her husband, they were both losing weight, which was just a side effect.
That's a side effect of good nutrition, and health, actually.
And that's not like my main focus. I try to tell people.
No, that's right.
Well, we will look at what's going on in your intake form and see, like, we really need to be kind of targeting our energy on what's going on with this. Like, you have no energy. Like, if you're not sleeping well, or you're feeling really anxious, you don't have any calm. You're feeling stressed all the time, and you're comfort eating, because that's generally what unfortunately people tend to do.
With stress.
They tend to reach sugary, starchy, salty things, like adrenal fatigue. People tend to reach for salty things. Like if you're kind of burnt out, salt stabilizes you. So you always kind of know, like, that's one of the signs, like I'm eating a lot of potato chips, or I'm eating a lot of greasy, salty food. You're like, okay, your adrenals are a bit short. Let's have a look at what's going on there.
I love good greasy, salty food. I'm sorry, but I do. I do. I love it. I like the crunch of a crisp. I love that crisp. And then I like the artificial flavor.
Like, you are not alone in that one. And I do think there is something about, texture is important.
Yeah, texture is very important. So I try to change the crunch to apples, because they're crunchy, or carrots, if I can, if I want to be healthy.
What about kale chips? You could put kale in the oven, throw some olive oil.
Yes, but they're too light. They're too light. I just like the potato with the crunch. I really do love it. But I don't buy them. You see, I don't have them in my home.
The other thing is, 80-20 is the other thing, right? Like, you do not have to be amazing 100% of the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's right.
Like, if you got 80% of the time you're eating well, and you're sleeping well, and you're recovering well, it doesn't matter if you have a cheat day every now and then, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I've always taught that to clients, that there's no one has to be absolutely perfect all the time, and you'd be very, very boring person if you couldn't go out and have fun and have a drink and have a bit of a laugh and have some of that salty, fatty food. that gives you such a hit, you know, an endorphin hit or something like that. It would be a very strange world if we could not do that. But the rest of the time, you know, anyone will say, you know, my husband, you know, that's so boring, because I can eat really quite basic food, really, which gives me a lot of pleasure because I don't feel any disruption in my system when I'm eating it. The other stuff, you do feel the disruption quite early on, actually. So tell us a bit, Raewyn, I want to know a bit more. I'm sure the listeners want to know a bit more about your 90-day, this program, which is really fantastic. Rebalancing the system, the body, nutritionally, because the functional medicine people deal largely through food and supplements. Is that right? So
yeah.
they're different from a nutritional therapist as well.
Well, they are, but the way that I work, I have a team, right? So I have
Yes.
I have a medical doctor who's trained in nutrition and functional medicine.
Yes.
I'm also trained in hypnotherapy.
Yes.
So I marry a combination of like stress management and mindset. And of course, I had like this whole background in corporate, and a lot of the people who do show up are people who are kind of stressed out from their jobs and not necessarily happy or feeling, and don't tend to have a lot of balance. So our approach is it's very, very holistic. It isn't only about diet and about supplements. We'll look at how you're being nourished, even from like, you know, the relationships that you're in or the jobs that you're doing. And are you getting enough balance throughout all of that? Is it giving you enough joy? Because that's a huge factor in terms of people being well. Because I've had people who come to me who've done everything right, like in terms of the diet and the supplements, but they're like, I'm still not well. And I was one of those people, because while I was in banking, I did the diet and I did the supplements, and I'm like, okay, I'm 80% better, but why am I not 100%? I don't understand what's going on. And my functional medicine practitioner at the time, he just broke it down so basic. He said, if you're stressed all the time and not happy and you're not sleeping, you're like,
no amount of supplementation or diet is going to correct psychological, emotional, or spiritual disturbance.
There you go. And the other way around as well. You cannot meditate yourself out of
that's right, out of
diet either, right? So which is what
absolutely.
it has to be a joined up. And you use that beautiful expression at the start, like functional medicine really connects the dots. And that's what we aim to do. We aim to help you connect the dots in your life about where the imbalances are, not just with your food, but what's going on in life where it's unbalanced. And women with thyroid issues, I just remember one of my lecturers back in 2016 saying he's never seen a client come to him with a thyroid issue who's had a balanced life. All people with thyroid issues have unbalanced lives. Like
I can believe that.
Balance. They don't get enough sleep. They don't have enough joy. They don't have enough. Something's missing. So we teach people how to find that, because we could, as a therapist as well, I remember one of the reasons I chose CBT was because I didn't like the idea of psychodynamic therapy, where you just had to keep rehashing.
Yes, absolutely. CBT is like, it's great, really. There's a place for psychodynamic, but CBT, for people like us, we need something to be doing.
And to be looking forward to, and creating
absolutely.
Creating this vision of how you want to feel. And a lot of the time when you rehash stuff from the past, it takes you back to that place. So we're all about changing the narrative around how you feel and how you want to feel. And what is this new you going to look like? How are you going to emerge? Are you going to emerge stronger, more resilient, more fun?
That's right. Because
it's important,
there isn't much you can do about the past, and sometimes with psychodynamic therapies or protocol, you can open a wound and it's just left there opening, and you need to close that down and move forward from that. And CBT really allows you the moving forward and the planning of that and the experiencing of that, which is under your control. the past is not under your control so much, you
and
know.
that's the beauty of what this whole approach is about. It is literally about, okay, I am the co-creator of my
absolutely
life. I have a hand in how it's going to plan out. And I think that's another big difference between allopathic medicine and functional medicine too, because they're like, oh, well, we'll wait to see if something shows up, like, well, it's not terrible right now. Let's just wait to see what happens.
Let's just wait to see it blow up. Let's see how big it's going to blow up. Yeah.
It frustrates me. I'm like, why should I wait to see? What can I do right now? Like,
what can I do now to help myself? Yeah, to help myself.
At the NHS, like, I recently had some stuff going on with me as well, and I had to be seen. And they are amazing. Like, if you break a foot or you have a heart attack,
they're fantastic. Yeah,
will be sorted instantly.
Yes,
but
that's right.
Else, like if it has to do with lifestyle management, they're just not equipped to deal with it. They don't. They have minutes and appointments, and our programs are more like, you're going to get at least 9 sessions with us, and probably more now, because we're just moving into this become the CEO of your own health.
Yes, that's right.
Right. I know you wanted to hear about that. So it's this brand new program. It's got so much support built into it, and like how to create this ideal and beautiful life, like this life full of energy, so that you can do all the things that you want to do and achieve all the things that you want to achieve. It's about total health transformation, and as a result, you have total life transformation as well.
Absolutely. What's quite interesting about your programs and the way that you work is that it's very similar to the way we work on CCH Live, which is why we said, we've got to have Raewyn and her company here. And I suppose what our listeners would like to know a bit more about is how, I suppose we've got, on our website, there's going to be information about the package and there's information about you, but they can, give us a call and you can speak to them. We can arrange for them to speak with you about how a package can work with them. You'd go through maybe some of their symptoms and what is troubling them at the moment. So we're offering, Raewyn has got a free half hour, is it, that you're offering? Yeah.
And a health assessment to go along with that. So
yes.
Before we actually meet, I get anyone to complete like an online health assessment, and we're completely virtual as well. So everything is done via a secure platform. It's got an app built into it too, so we can track your food and all that fun stuff. But before we begin any of that, it starts off by completing this health questionnaire, and we give you a score, and it usually tells us like what we need to work on and where we need to begin, and then we can have a discussion around the direction that we want to go down, like what the treatment plan would look like.
Yes, because it's a two-way process. It's not just you dictating to the individual. It's all done on agreement. It's not like the doctor, where the doctor will say to you, you have to do this to get this result. I mean, you work with the individuals because there's many routes to skin a cat, really.
Absolutely.
And there's many factors that impact on that result as well. And you can't necessarily do them all at once. So you will choose the ones that you feel will work best at any one time for that individual. So what, have you got any special message you'd like to give the CCH Live audience before we go, Raewyn?
Well, I am a big fan of like sleep. And so I have 2 messages actually. Rest for success, not just dress, like really focus on recovery. It's
absolutely,
and I think right now with the whole being in lockdown, I've seen this trend of people not switching off. They're on their phones at 11 o'clock sending messages.
It's been massive,
And we're having a bit of an issue with that, because that just drives anxiety. It drives inflammation.
Absolutely.
It drives all this. And if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not recovering. Your body's not healing. You're increasing your susceptibility to all those big 4 health conditions that I talked about at the start. Your cancer, your diabetes, your stroke, your heart. So rest for success, really, really important, in addition to the whole dress thing.
Yes, which is great.
Test. Definitely test and don't guess. Like, get the lab work done. Find out what your baselines are. Get familiar with your bio individuality. Understand what normal looks like for you, or what dysfunctional for you, and then we can help you get to normal, you know? So just
Yeah,
get it.
absolutely.
What that looks like. You know, we'll help you eat for your genetics, help you eat for your lifestyle, help you live for it too, the kinds of exercise that you should be doing. Because a lot of people are doing exercise that they really shouldn't be doing, you know,
Oh,
doing
absolutely.
training and like.
Absolutely. You get that a lot in the corporate world. You know, it's so competitive, and then they start doing these, what I call ridiculous exercises for their body type and their genetics, which simply.
And for their lifestyle, you know, they're like
and for their lifestyle.
Adrenaline all day, like adrenaline.
Yes.
Treadmill, going to the meetings, to the next meeting, to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then I was one of them. Like, I am guilty, which is why I feel like I'm in such a great place to help people, because 6 p.m. I would go to the gym and do a 2-hour spin class and then wonder, why can't I sleep?
Yeah.
The goal is like,
well, yes, absolutely, because the adrenaline will prevent it. But I remember when I was younger and I was teaching classes and doing marathon running, I would actually spend quite a lot of time in bed. And my sister used to say to me, I came to watch a program with you and you fell asleep. It's just like, you don't know what I've done today. I have to sleep. And I've always found I'm a good sleeper. I think I learned that from a very young age, to sleep like maybe even 8 to 9 hours. I'm good. I don't care if I'm the boring person going to bed at 9 o'clock at night, because I know 5 o'clock I'm ready, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Well, that has to do with your chronotype too. You know, some people
absolutely.
Like, okay, you sound like, you know, a lark. That's what they call them.
Yes, I'm a lark. Yeah.
Early bird, right? I think I'm more of either a wolf or like a bear. I'm a creative. Like, I could stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not good for me, because the rest of the world starts at like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Right? And it's no good in banking, because I would go to bed at 12, wake up at 5, go for a run.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite harsh on your system. Yeah.
Really hard. Yeah. So I've learned so much about my body throughout all this. So even though like I've had my own health crises and, you know, all these things, and this is the beautiful thing again about this, it's like, these are your teachers, right? So whatever you're going through, it's coming to teach you something. It's coming to teach you to get more connected.
To help others as well. Yeah, absolutely.
It's there to help you get connected with who you are, what works for your body, how to get the best out of it as well, without running it into the ground, which is what, unfortunately, I think our culture has been so geared toward. It's like we work against our bodies. We work in alignment with the corporate culture of a firm. And you're like, no, you need to work in alignment with how your body works, right?
Yeah.
Like, and understand how that works.
I've always felt over the years, from working corporate, non-corporate with creatives, there is a vast level of individuality out there, which is what, you know, this homogenized one system fits all has never worked for me, either in fitness or in the company, in any therapy that I've practiced. But also that nature, you know, we're just animals. We are human beings, a specific type of animal, but we are a part of the natural world. So I always try and gear more towards the natural sense of what the other animals in my tribe are doing. You know,
it's so wise. There's an internet meme that I like to share with people. I said, you know, we are really just houseplants with more complicated emotions, because we need light, we need fresh air, we need water.
Yes.
Right? And this is the thing, like clean water, clean air, you know, sunlight, really, really important for us to function, and the right foods in order to function.
Absolutely, the right foods. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for talking today to our audience, and I look forward to speaking to you again. You can contact Raewyn on her profile at CCH Live, and you can book your free consultation there. I'm hoping her package stuff and everything will be up by next week. So we look forward to hearing more from you, Raewyn, and have a lovely, lovely weekend. Take care and bye for now.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.